Saturday morning, August 21st, just about 8:30. I'm in Utica, New York's Union Station, and I'll be taking the dome car north today on the Adirondack Railroad. I mentioned in my video last week that I wasn't expecting to go until the end of October, but an opportunity developed and I'll be going with a friend today, and we'll be offering some video. So stick with us. And just a couple more views of the interior. Union Station also serves as a station for a bus company, and you can see there's a gift shop here for the Adirondack Railroad. The overhead walkway over Union Station.
We have nothing like this at regular trains. They used to be regular all the time, but this is
We're leaving Union Station, Utica.
Once we get above this next railroad, we'll be on up to a place called Snow Junction in Ramson. We'll be on another railroad's tracks, and they're slower. But then we get above that, we'll be about 50 miles an hour. It'll be exciting. It'll be good. I hope you enjoy this. It's a wonderful, to me.
I'm enjoying it already.
When I was a kid, well, I wasn't a kid, I was 20. The feed mill that I worked out of used to get all the dry ingredients in on trains into Vernon there by Bull's Egg.
Yeah.
Used to unload them with a big scoop shovel with wheels on it.
Well, they still, the railroad that branches off up here, the Susquehanna and Western, who feed down to Sangerfield, south of Bridgewater, several times a week.
That incinerator in that building were one of the same.
Future site of the Adirondack Railroad.
They repurposed so the stack
engine house.
was the original powerhouse stack, yes. Here's a good old Long Island Railroad car. The one that's got all the graffiti on it, 2993. I lived on Long Island for 15 years. Road does a lot. They're building a maintenance facility out here for the railroad. And that's why they're storing the cars out here.
Yeah, that's
on Mohawk River right now.
We'll be crossing the Mohawk River in just a minute.
Yep.
a little tough to really pick up anything you recognize from this position.
Yeah. We'll go in the other direction, you'll be going forward.
Right. Well, I mean, because you're so used to using the road.
Right. Well, we're coming up to the arterial crossing, the 812, whatever it is, going north.
You want me to sit straight so you can turn?
No, you're fine.
Did you see also, have you been in town since the hospital's gone up? Did you see that big building in Utica?
On the right-hand side coming into town?
Yeah.
No, I didn't know what it was.
That's the new hospital.
Wow.
Replace all the other hospitals in town.
Oh, it's going to do that.
Be the medical center for this part of the state. Now there's the river. It's going pretty well.
We live right by the dam. Right by the dam, so no, we live up the hill, so it's not gonna go there.
Well, I was telling John, I first rode this train up these tracks somewhere around 1953. And when we got to Hendara, we were going to Lake Placid. And my father knew the engineers, so he and I went up into the cab of the locomotive and drove the rest of the way. A few years ago.
The bridge you see in the distance is over the barge canal. And we'll be passing through the Utica Marsh Wildlife Area up until that bridge.
So where are we in regard to what the hell is it?
Risking is off that way about 8 miles.
Okay, so we're way over.
We're going up out of Utica in a northwesterly direction, but the main line left us back there. So, and here's where the floodwaters have all gone.
Well, this sure got some water in there.
Both sides. This is.
I've never been in a real casino before. Easy now. The first day of work, you can't walk the train. I didn't wear a suit before.
But you can't see it. It's bright.
So I had to wear a suit every day. My pockets did that.
And again, this is the bridge over the New York State Barge Canal, also known as the Erie Canal. We are on the Mohawk, Adirondack and Northern Railroad. These tracks will carry the Adirondack Railroad 23 miles to Ramson, and after Ramson, Snow Junction will be on tracks owned by the Adirondack Railroad. Give me some refreshments here on the railroad.
Thank you.
I had the orange juice, that would be me.
And coffee.
Thank you.
I'm the coffee.
Then I'll give you these to go back.
Oh, okay.
We use them for somebody else.
Thank you. Crossing under Route 291 in Marcy.
Children today too much into electronics. So for them to go out there and stay out there.
Leave my bag in a special place and walk in the city, get some exercise, and get some snacks. I used to live in Chicago area, so I know the
This is Mapledale Road, town of Trenton.
Okay. Who gets open? There's the only Is that what you ordered?
I think so, yeah. I didn't know I had a choice. I thought that's all.
There was a choice on mine. So,
They come back into.
okay, over here. I think one place. I'm not sure. I had a blueberry muffin. But what we ran out of blueberry and chocolate chip, or I think waffle raspberry scone. Or this one. I'm not sure.
Everything bagel, yes. Thanks. There's the Christmas.
We are on Ramson Hill. Grades up to 1.25%. Sometimes present operating difficulties for the railroads, especially when the rails are wet and when the leaves fall on the rails. It also presents some difficulty with wheel slippage.
Do you need more cream?
Yes, you would need some cream. Strawberry cream there.
On a great way to spend a day.
Yeah, lucky choice.
There's the waterfalls.
Oh, is there the falls?
Yeah, and there's an old house here too. It's like,
Oh, yeah.
oh wow, look
How's it doing, Jeff?
at you see?
Yeah, a lot of water. Flowing well?
Yeah.
Coming up on the left is the Ramson Town Hall on Pine Street.
It looks like a
You get a complete travel commentary. When he posts it all, he does a great job.
Look at the buildings over here that one collapsed. Other way around, the houses are on top of the tracks.
So this is
Well, I lived for a while in Virginia, so we get down to Carolina a lot. One of my daughters went to Chapel Hill School.
I guess that could be taken.
A lot of good barbecue. And we used to do summers out at Ocracoke. One of the Hatteras, one of the
That
Outer
water
Bank
just
Islands.
eroding
That
the
was
foundation of that
Building.
building. Yeah.
But that was then, and this is now. Yes.
Ramson. We're in Ramson.
Up ahead is the Ramson Depot, and they've got a couple of rail cars on exhibit, an old Pullman sleeper, and an engine that ran on the Adirondack Railroad back in 1979, 1980 are on display. There's also a former U.S. Army flat car and a New York Central caboose.
Look over in that window. Oh, I see. Einstein, Elvis. Einstein, Elvis.
But it just got moved up
Sherlock
here
Holmes.
this year. It used to be in Utica, at the Children's Museum.
And on the other side, you just passed our sleeper. There is too. Yeah, with all people. Anybody work fast enough to name all those people? This is Snow Junction. Tracks off to the right of the Mohawk, Adirondack, and Northern to Port Leyden and Lyons Falls, and we're now on Adirondack Railroad tracks, and we'll be on tracks of the Adirondack Railroad all the way to Hendara. We'll be going over the Cayuga Lake Trestle in just a minute.
Oh, it is very pretty. Oh, look at, they're even waving on the boat.
Other side, everybody's still seeing one part We're approaching Forestport Station. It's the old New York Central depot. The telegrapher's symbol for Forestport Station was FO. And the Buffalo Head restaurant is to the right.
Oh, sachet, yeah, right.
You used to smell it because people had new fever and stuff like that.
Yep.
Good old public stations. Well, yeah.
Station needs a little work.
So my friend Randy here has got this handy device on his cell phone, and we're doing 43.9, 43.2 right now. It's definitely faster than on the first 23 miles out of Utica. We're approaching the bridge known to the railroad as Big Woodhull. It again crosses the Little Woodhull Creek.
I'm gonna get up and go somewhere quiet for a minute.
This is what the other
Otter
way,
Lake.
according to the picture.
So hiking trails, beach, we have 4 islands and there's 4 water, so there's no condos, no buildings, no anything. So I'm president of the board, and we just built the first new building in the state park in Florida in 23 years. It's very impressive.
Yeah, so his
Really,
wife
like any education center.
weekend, they went to the weekend. They went to Conrail.
They said they didn't host it. Oh yeah.
Yeah. That's a state park that's
At the end,
well visited. Yes.
yes.
I think you're right.
This is the McKeever station.
I'm not sure. Like that. Is this the station?
Privately owned now by a family who owned it since the early 1960s. We're coming up across, soon we'll be crossing the Moose River.
Right across the trestle.
Oh yeah, here's the river here. There it is.
And we're above the Moose River right now.
Won't help us this week.
I gotta stand up now.
This is Minnehaha.
Then it's the same, it says /there.
Oh yeah.
Now celebrating more than 70.
Oh boy.
We've had to stop about 5 miles or so south of Hendara because there's a tree down on the tracks and
The bus driver knows.
they're working on removing it right now.
Okay.
So we'll be a little delayed getting into Hendara, but by probably just a few minutes.
Van in the downtown?
And here's a closer view of the
Put it on yourself.
offending tree.
Can you see that?
Pay a fare.
Yeah, you see the tree on the map.
Somebody came out behind me and goes, oh, I'll go get mine. I mean, this is. You're talking, right?
December 20th, 2019.
December
2019.
December 19th.
About 18th or 19th.
And we're
There's
just on
Hendara.
the very outskirts of Hendara. Running a little late today, mainly because of that downed tree.
But see, to me, I'm just feeling totally at peace.
Oh, me too.
At this moment, someone
time.
brought us food and beverage, and somebody else is driving, and it's just smooth and beauty.
Get next to the
A
cat.
lot of times on train trips out on the road, one person sees a lot and the other one just sees traffic. You know, it's
The caboose is used on work trains this season for the Adirondack Railroad. There's a major track project in effect right now to restore the railroad service up to Tupper Lake, but the whole corridor from Ramson to Tupper Lake is seeing
brand new
thousands
ties
of new
going in.
ties and tons of new ballast.
And that engine you were asking about is sitting right up here by the station. In this direction, you'll see the cap of it. That little switcher.
So this is going to the other stretch. It's going off.
Stretch up there to Tupper Lake, yeah. Which hasn't been used in a long time, so it's being totally renovated.
But for the most part, it shouldn't be bad to take care of.
What?
It's already there. It's just a matter of modifying it.
Yeah, just bringing it up to standards like they did down here, and yeah.
No kidding.
That's leaving the whole.
He has a lot of time.
Randy, are these just escape hatches, or
What?
is that just an escape hatch? No, it can't be.
No, I don't know what those are for. There's one in the car ahead too.
Yeah, every one of them's got them. But this whole girl's
Not
still
all
like-
of them, not all the cars use it, but some of that certain. Depending on the age, the possibility. It was
Hendara
at
Station.
One upon a time, it was where the.
And we'll be heading down, detraining. We'll head back to Utica in about 4 hours at 4:30. The engine will be right in front of us. So I'll shoot some more as we head back to Utica. But for right now, we'll head into Old Forge and have some lunch. Watch your step there. I'm with Randy Becker in the Hendara train station. It's through Randy's good offices that I was able to ride the Dome today. His brother Bruce had to cancel. And Randy's got a pretty interesting story to tell about his dad, or at least a few comments. His dad worked for the New York Central Railroad for many years and as in the engineering department, and it was responsible for some of the roads in the Utica-area, including this line. So with that introduction, Randy, anything you'd like to say about today's trip or your dad? And
Well, let's go back to my dad, Bill Becker, who worked out of Utica as a surveyor and civil engineer for decades, eventually becoming office manager in Utica. But this was part of his territory, basically everything from West Albany up to Manoa, and then north from there to over the border into Canada even. So this was one of the parts of his territory. I remember being on the Hendara platform in 1953, I think it was, where we were on the way to Lake Placid on a trip, and Mr. Costello, who was the engineer that day, saw Dad and invited me and my father up into the cab, something you don't hear about happening anymore. So we rode from here up. My mother's sitting back in the coaches rather happily, I think. So some good memories there. I remember buying another trip, buying an ice cream sandwich out here from some vendor on this platform. A lot of stories he told. He talked about one time coming down after working up by Lake Placid, actually Lake Claire Junction, and heading down on the road. It dawned on him, middle of winter, dark, heavy snow, that he hadn't seen a car or any other light for over an hour, and he realized if anything happened, he was out in the middle of nowhere. He would also come home with stories about times when trains would go up and they wouldn't hear from them for much too long, and they'd have to send someone out looking to find out where the train had disappeared to. And so they instituted some rules about calling in at certain places on the way down through here in the winter, so they knew they made it. And at least once a runaway car off the rear of one of them, leaving a train and ending up going off at a curve. And I don't know all the details, I just remember a kid doing it. I also noticed a drawing up here of the layout, and as I look at it, it's not any initials on it, but I know that handwriting. That was probably done in the Utica office, 1952 it says, and that's certainly my father's handwriting as I look at it. So a lot of memories here about the work of this. I've ridden this line as New York Central. I rode the line back at the Olympics time. I rode it at the Centennial time. And now here we are riding again, this time in the Dome car. So it's amazing how much has grown up and how much has changed, and yet how much stays the same. And isn't that the story of railroading? How much stays the same even as the world changes.
And you told me your dad worked for the New York Central starting in 1941, I believe.
Right, 1941.
And he worked up through the Conrail years in 1982.
Right, and yes, all through all of that, and then left after 41 years. Yep.
Any thoughts on today's ride and the state of the tracks? I know you had a couple comments.
I did. Well, certainly the Mohawk, Adirondack, and Northern is a slower speed run, but once we hit the Adirondack tracks, and we were doing up in the 40s, it was smooth sailing. It was really quite delightful. I've been on too many tourist roads where it's a jostle and a slow going. This was professionally run and very comfortable. And to be in a classic Dome is like, you know, the cherry on the top of the whipped cream on top of the sundae. I'm sure all the classes were wonderful, but this was just, to be able to see it looking forward was fantastic. So.
Well, Randy, I want to thank you for inviting me along today. I'm sorry Bruce couldn't be here, but it was a delightful meeting you in person. We've been Facebook friends for years and first met through a site called Train Orders, but never met in person.
Right.
So thank you again, and thanks for sharing your memories. And it's been a good day.
It has been. Let me just say, those on train errors, I'm Rev Randy. And so if you see something...
I'm UT1.
Right.
So...
You know who we are.
Very good. Thanks again, Randy.
You're my pleasure, John. Glad you could come along.
Okay, thanks. Bye. About 4:25, should be leaving Thendara soon. It's a very good trip. We'll get a little more footage on the way down. So we're about to leave Thendara. We got a nice little snack here. We've ordered beverages. And Randy and I have been privileged to sit across the table from Ed and Wendy from Vernon. Hi, Ed and Wendy. Hello. Thanks for allowing me to video and putting up with the railroad talk on the way up here. So, anything you want to say about the trip up? Did you enjoy yourselves? Or?
Fantastic.
Randy and John, you both have made this trip real special with your knowledge and your expertise of the railroad as we have.
Well, thanks so much.
Thank you.
We had a better time because you guys were our table mates.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
And the trip up from Utica, the dome car was the last of the train. Now we're the first behind the engine.
Probably harder to see today a little bit. Some of the smaller ones. Right, exactly. See if I see a have to run the dishwasher 3 times to catch up. We catch them in the dishwasher. Yeah, it was like, so it was such a but when you watch how they kind of spread out, somebody that does that.
And they have it on their leg.
I want this house.
Look at the front with the tree comes by and it takes them out.
We go to the wild.
That's a cool shot. Oh, video.
Well, it's okay.
For real? Yeah. So what it makes me did it. To make sure that you understand.
And the bridge up ahead is over the New York State Barge Canal.
She's hilarious.
She's a cute
Yeah, there we go.
Utica's skyline, such as it is directly ahead.
Over COVID, she became a stone. I don't know. I'm not very.
On both sides of the tracks it's the Utica Marsh, a wildlife area.
I'll give you mine.
Well, they're talented on the wall. Yeah. They should probably go to our school and make some money out of it.
This is the bridge over the Mohawk River.
Water is to us.
It's about the same as it was this morning. It's not going down much.
It's probably because my friend's not
On the left is the future site of the Adirondack Railroad's maintenance facility.
It looks that way. All the train stations in Knoxville rarely even go through here.
And We're crossing under North Genesee Street.
Oh, look, this wrong. We can see our car. Is we parked the car? No, it's not.
It was for breakfast.
No. No.
Yes.
That's not it.
Oh, there's this restaurant.
And Union Station's coming into view.
Beginning of October.
There.
Oh,
Oh yeah, we turned here. Right, but where are the cars?
no, they took their children's names and mashed them.
Oliver and Beatrice.
Mashed them together.
We turned them,
It's a
turned them.
farm-to-table restaurant, and it's spectacular. It's like farm-to-table gourmet.
Yeah.
Like breakfast
We made
brunch.
a big get like.
And an Amtrak Empire Service train just came into the station.
We made it.
We're back in Utica. 6:38. Been a good trip.
And like a side, and like a side of cayenne jelly.
I know, it's just amazing. It's crazy good.
And this real tips.
Yes. Yeah, we're gonna fly.
Here's a final shot of our engine today that took us up to Hendara and back. It's a good trip. I think everyone around us really enjoyed themselves. Thanks for watching the video. And ride the Adirondack if you can. It's well worth it.